Hello, all. I'm Michael with the WriterSanctuary. Now, having an outline helps me stay focused on the story I want to tell. It also helps me remember things, especially since it'll be a while before I get back to writing my book. For me, it's just easier to move the story from point A to point B if I have a set path. So, what do I do when it comes to plotting my next story? First of all, let me start by saying that plotting isn't necessarily the perfect way to write a book. Every author has their own flow, and there truly is no right or wrong answer as long as you get the first draft written. With that being said, there are some things I do to help me get in the mood while putting together some awesome scenes and dialogue. Now, to get the ball rolling, normally I like to listen to what I call theme songs. Now, these are musical scores that I associate with each book and listen to while I take my walking breaks. Now, during the music, I'll envision what the book would look like if it were a live action trailer or even a music video. Then I'll take those scenes and put them in the outline when I come back in. Now, it's not always in chronological order, and I move the outline scenes to where they would make the most logical sense in the story. Now, in some cases, I even have more than one song tied to the book. Sometimes I'll have music for specific scenes. For instance, when I wrote the ending to Shadows of Atlantic City, Meredith Brooks's Sin City is the one that comes up in my head. In fact, every time I listen to that song, I know exactly how the scene would work out in a live action play of it. Now, next, when I outline, I do so in brackets inside the manuscript. Now, I've talked about this before, and you can see that video right about here. Essentially, I'll write out what I want to see in the scene surrounded by normal brackets. Now, when that part of the book is done, I delete the bracketed section and write my way to the next one. Now, sometimes it's nothing more than a single sentence, and other times it's nearly a paragraph depending on what I want to show in that scene. Now, sometimes I have to make adjustments and changes to the rest of the outline depending on what happens in the scene and where the character takes the story, in which case I rewrite the vast majority of the remaining brackets and sections. Now, something I've been doing more a little bit lately has been organizing the outlines chapter by chapter. Now, it's one thing to outline an entire book, but it's another to make sure the chapters are inserted in a logical sense. That's one of the reasons why I think I might have to rewrite A Lot of Fury, the second book in the Witcham series. Now, there's just so much going on in that book that I don't think I got the chapters separated in a logical way. So I might have to reorganize some things around and make the chapters flow better. Anyway, outlining each chapter has been exceptionally helpful, as I can ensure each one has its own point to the overall plot. Now, the story doesn't feel nearly as scattered, especially considering how Fury is from different points of view throughout the entire book. Now, while writing the outlines, I visualize the scenes that I want to see. That's because I write very cinematically, meaning I visualize the manuscript as if it were something I'd like to see on Netflix or Hulu. This is also one of the reasons why I am debating on writing some of the screenplays based on my books for short videos on YouTube in the near future. Anyway, I try to outline the book with the idea of how it would come off on the big screen, often completed with sound effects and music. Now, I still think I should have been a director. Now, when outlining the book, I'll also consider what I think of as cool dialogue. Now, it's dialogue between characters that I view as exciting or bone chilling. In fact, there are times when I'll say the dialogue aloud in the shower before working on my book just to make sure it sounds good. So, if you hear me talking in the shower, that's probably why. But there are times when I come up with such a great sentence for later in the story that I have to add it in bracketed sections in the outline. For example, the line "You owe me 5 gold" toward the beginning of the end fight scene of Kingmaker was in brackets long before I finished chapter 1. We'd have to read the book to get that reference, but it's kind of a throwback to something that happened much, much earlier in the book. Now, when outlining certain parts of the story, I don't worry too much about names of secondary characters. In many instances, I'll write an entire outline before I even assign names for characters in general. So, I would have something like Elf Ranger picks up the hide in brackets. In fact, there was a character in Kingmaker that was nothing more than a red shirt until one of my beta readers pointed out his significance. So, in later drafts, I gave the Ranger a name and a bit more of a story in the book. My point is that not every character needs a name in the book, and sometimes I'll just use descriptors in the brackets of what I want to see. Now, lastly, I often make notes to myself in the outline. Sometimes I'll need reminding of describing something of importance or that I need X, Y, and Z before the next scene. I'll even create bracketed sections after reading through the first draft to remind me of edits I'll need or further background information that may be necessary. Now, I always leave comments for myself to fix certain things in the book after the first draft. I don't do this nearly as often as I've been using the comment tool that's in Readsy. Nonetheless, I have never written a first draft without leaving behind notes of things that need explaining, adjusted, or reconsidered. At the end of the day, I outline the book as a way to help me organize the structure of it. Now, I know a lot of people who prefer to just write and be surprised by how the story unfolds. For me, the story changes so often that I'm still surprised when characters do or say something that alters the outline's trajectory. As I said, though, there is no right or wrong answer when it comes to writing your book. It all comes down to what helps you get the first draft done. And anyone else who tells you otherwise is full of shit. The only truly wrong answer is to let AI write it for you, but that's a rant for another day. And that's because most people know how I feel about generative AI writing books. Anyway, the writing method that helps you most is the best one to use. Anywho, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. For more videos about self-publishing, blogging, freelance writing, or anything else I cover, hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the notification bell. I think it's going to do it for me today. I need to edit this video and write a blog post. I'll see you next time.